Hey everybody, who's a fan of the TV show I Love Lucy? If you're a baby boomer like me, you probably grew up watching I Love Lucy and have seen every single episode at least 100 times. And so when I discovered that Lucy's mom, Mrs. McGillicuddy, was buried here at Harbor Lawn Mount Olive Memorial Park in Costa Mesa, California, I had to stop by and see her gravesite. I'm guessing that even though you probably all remember her if you've seen the show, because she wasn't one of the central characters, I'm guessing she probably doesn't have a lot of fans who come to visit her gravesite, so I definitely wanted her to have at least one, me. So I'm here today, and she's buried right over here on the right-hand side where you see the hedges there. She's just to the left, about 3 rows to the left. And if you're a football fan, and I know some of you are, you might remember the name Ron Jessie. He was a wide receiver with teams such as the Buffalo Bills, the Detroit Lions, and the LA Rams. Sadly, he died at a pretty young age. He died at the age of 57 from a heart attack, and he's laid to rest right here, pretty close to Mrs. McGillicuddy, whose real name was Kathryn Card. She's buried in a traditional gravesite. He was cremated, and his ashes are interred in the ground within this really nice cremation garden section. Katherine Card died from a heart attack here in the city of Costa Mesa on March 1st, 1964, at the age of 71. She appeared in quite a few very popular movies, including Please Don't Eat the Daisies, remember that Doris Day classic, and The Unsinkable Molly Brown, which I believe was her last film appearance in 1964. So she worked right up until the year that she died. But I'm sure I'll always remember her best as the sort of wacky bird brain mother of Lucy Ricardo and the very annoying mother-in-law to Ricky Ricardo. Remember how she used to call him Mickey? And remember how sometimes she would get him confused with Xavier Cugat, and that kind of got under his skin as well. So I'm really glad to finally visit Kathryn Card's gravesite here in Costa Mesa, and I used to work in Costa Mesa. I worked in Costa Mesa for about a decade, and I had no idea she was buried here. At that time, I was really busy with my career, and I wasn't visiting cemeteries as often, so I guess I had to wait until I retired to come back and visit her gravesite. But better late than never, right? And as I mentioned earlier, NFL football player Ron Jessie is laid to rest just a few yards away from Kathryn Card's gravesite, so let's walk over there now. His cremated remains are buried here in the ground within this cremation urn garden. He died from a heart attack in nearby Huntington Beach on January 13th, 2006, at the age of 57. And if you've never been to Costa Mesa, California, and you're wondering where it's located, it's only about 4 miles away from the John Wayne Airport and 7 miles away from the beach here in Orange County, California. If you're watching this on a small device, you may not be able to see that on his headstone is etched on the left-hand side the image of a football player, and between his birth date and his death date is the image of a football. And the inscription reads, "Beloved husband, father, and papa." And let me just continue panning around here so you can get a better idea of what the section and the cemetery look like. It's actually a pretty small cemetery, and it's pretty early in the morning, but already there are quite a few people visiting gravesites. So I'm trying not to speak too loudly. And I wonder if Card was a football fan, or if Jessie was an I Love Lucy fan. I don't know about you, but whenever I find famous people laid to rest near each other in the cemeteries, I always wonder if they knew each other or knew of each other when they were alive. And I don't know if these people were famous or not, but in the section just to the south of Jessie and Card, I happen to notice this gravesite here with this really nice soccer trophy in between the two headstones. I wasn't able to find any information online, so whether he was an amateur or a professional, it appears that he was pretty good at his sport. And it's pretty neat to see this trophy here at his gravesite. And as I've been strolling around the cemetery for a little bit, I've noticed some other really creative headstones, and I'll show you some of them at the end of this video. At the north end of the cemetery is the Mount Olive Garden of the Psalms Jewish section, and there's another famous person laid to rest here. Debbie Friedman was a famous folk singer and songwriter of Jewish religious songs and was popular internationally. And right in front of her headstone is this really nice bench that says, "Come sit with me." It's definitely an inviting and pleasant place to sit and visit. Friedman died from pneumonia in the nearby city of Mission Viejo on January 9, 2011, at the young age of 59. Her headstone reads, "Cherished daughter and sister, dedicated student, teacher, composer, and writer, she had an unquenchable thirst for Torah and living Jewishly." And the last line reads, "And you shall be a blessing." How many of you are familiar with her music? There's another person also buried in this section who I was hoping to find today, but I just haven't been able to find his gravesite, and it's a Sunday, so the office is not open, and his Find a Grave memorial page only shows a photo, but doesn't give any information about the section where he's laid to rest. He became famous in a way no one wants to become famous. He was the victim of a brutal crime at a very young age, and I'll call the cemetery to see if they'll give me directions to his gravesite, and if they will, then I'll be back in the future for another visit. And I just happened to spot this Holocaust survivor gravesite not far from Debbie Friedman's gravesite. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a Find a Grave memorial page for her, so I don't know who Dorothy Schottland was, but the inscription on her headstone says that she was a woman of valor, and since she was a Holocaust survivor, we at least know a part of her story. And the best part is that she got to live a very long life. She died on October 9th, 2010, at the age of 87. It's nice to see so many upright headstones here in this section, since the rest of the cemetery is mostly just the flat headstones. And personally, I always like it when people are a little bit more creative with their headstones and share what was special about the person buried there. Like this one with the peace sign and the bicycle rider. And this triple headstone with an image of what looks to be a swimmer and two peace signs. And in addition to being a beach bum with a fun sense of humor, this couple seemed to have a lot of hobbies and interests, and definitely seemed to like to collect things. It's nice to see the cemetery allowing personal mementos like this. This is obviously a well-visited gravesite. And even though it's faded and a little difficult to read, this headstone really grabbed my attention. The inscription on the left-hand side reads, "One Fine Day, a Diabetic Love Story, novel by Helena Nichols." Surprisingly, I wasn't able to find a Find a Grave memorial page for her, but I did find her book on Amazon, although it does look like it's out of print now. The description says the novel's about a mother and her son who are both diabetics, and after her divorce she becomes involved in a murder mystery, but eventually finds the meaning of love. This literally is a story from the grave, and if any of you have read the book, please share your reviews down in the comments section. This week I want to thank my newest Patreon supporters, Elizabeth Purr and Douglas Temple. Thanks so much for your kind donations, Elizabeth and Douglas. They're very appreciated and definitely help to make future trips like this possible. So until our next trip to the cemetery together, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.